everybody. This is Greg on the Contact Center KPI podcast again. And today we have Jon Ellsworth, Chief Revenue Officer, and we're going to be talking using AI for first call resolution. Jon, please take a moment to say hi, introduce yourself, a little bit of background, fill some folks in as to kind of who you are.
Yeah, sure, Greg. Thanks. Thanks for the opportunity. My name's Jon Ellsworth. I am Chief Revenue Officer for ApexCX. My background spans 25 years inside the contact center space. So I fell into an opportunity working at a call center as an agent, not what I went to school for like a lot of people, and just turned it into a career. And so over the course of 25 years, I've seen a lot of new technologies, a lot of new geographies, a lot of new opportunities. It's been exciting. Most of my career has been on the outsourcing side, and then recently I moved over to the CX consulting side.
Nice, nice. 25 years. That's a minute. So you've kind of seen some changes, not only just from an industry perspective, but also kind of different technologies come and go, how different technologies are kind of adapted or morphed into the use in a use inside of a contact center. So I'm excited to kind of dive into that because I think all of that gives you relevant context based upon your history to understand kind of how AI is going to kind of unfold over the next couple of years. So AI for first call resolution. We're going to kind of go through 3 steps here, Jon. We're going to talk about how you decide if it's going to be something you want to do, and then we're going to talk about how to implement it, and then we're going to talk about how to measure it. So let's kind of talk about decide. How do I decide? All right, now is the time for us to consider using AI to help in that first call resolution KPI.
Yeah, and Greg, it's on everybody's minds at this point, right? AI is talked about in just about every circle you can think about, and there really is a tremendous amount of noise on the topic. There seems to be almost a new provider born every day in the AI space. So where do you start? What do you do? How do you look at it? How do you go about it? Really, you need to, I think it's look at it on an independent basis. Your organization, what's important for your culture, what's important for your business goals, what's important for your financial business goals, what's important for your customer base, though, and how does that customer base truly get effectively supported? It's kind of trying to figure out the best of all of those worlds and how to come up with that solution. And that's going to be different for company A to company B, and it's going to be different every time. And so where you really need to look at this is from an independent perspective, specifically focusing on your company and what's going to be important for your goal and goals in the organization.
So I'm gonna push back a little bit on you, Jon, there, and I want something like tactical, right? Because that was pretty broad. So like, what's 1 or 2 things that you're like, hey, this metric or that metric or a combination of this and that are maybe some good either leading or lagging indicators that this is something that you should be adopting. So how do let's hone in on that just a little bit.
Yeah, we think our perspective is that you should really look at a whole new tactical AI KPI, and we kind of think of it about as quote an accurate AI resolution. So when you look at your KPIs that are traditional out there, average handle time, customer satisfaction, you can pretty easily kind of take a look at those and measure those. But when you start putting AI into a solution, you have to think a bit more broad now in this KPI and how does it collectively get figured? And I don't know that we have the true full answer here yet to this, but our thinking is that you really need to look at it as the new KPI of accurate AI resolution. And that's going to take into account certainly where you deploy the AI and the types of channels and interactions you're deploying that on, but then what are the net results as well to upselling, cross-selling, retention of that customer, attrition of your employees. You need to then take a holistic look at all of this on a more comprehensive basis to see how is the AI solution really resulting then in overall customer satisfaction and experience. And it's going to be new results that have not been seen before. If you just simply look at AI resolution, you're looking at maybe solving a number of transactions, but you're lacking at the big picture of what did that do for your revenue generating opportunities that are missed, your customer retention that is missed. How many customers are now dropping off because it was just AI as a solution? So we think you look at this new metric called accurate AI resolution.
Interesting. So, um, if we maybe we are maybe we have super high agent attrition. Maybe it's like 50, 60% of turnover, agents turnover all the time. Um, and we know that our costs to ramp a new agent are 105% of the first 6 months of salary, something like that. Um, that might be something where we look at, okay, maybe we want to deploy AI here to test it out, knowing it's not going to be perfect, but we won't have the cost of agent attrition. And so do you kind of maybe look at balancing the scales of like, hey, we don't know what accurate AI resolution is going to possibly be, but we know it's going to be better than this over here, and we'll probably be happy somewhere in the middle. Like, do you start thinking about like a decision tree like that where you're like, this problem over here is so painful, we can't solve it. Let's try to insert AI here to help at least stop that leaking bucket.
Yeah, and our suggestion, Greg, you hit on a great point there. And our suggestion would be, as AI is really still coming in, to full swing, right? It's not so mature to the point that it's just status quo. Everybody's doing it. It's solving all problems. Our recommendation, our thought is exactly along the lines of what you're talking about. Do it in a pilot kind of way. Don't do it in a large scale deployment of production, but do it in a pilot kind of way where you can look at the exact scenario you just mentioned. Hey, if we have a huge attrition issue and that's costing us a ton of money, well, let's continue to do some of that and let's see how that continue to work, as well as then we match, maybe let's take this one channel or this one time frame, let's put AI into that solution, then let's look at all the results of that. But again, collectively, you have to look at, okay, even though I have high attrition with the people scenario, I still am getting cross-selling and upselling. So I am giving revenue there. I am still probably getting a customer retention level, right? How does that then match against if we tried this other method of AI on one particular time frame or one particular channel? How is that comparing against the results in the end? So our thought is do it in a pilot kind of way. Don't just change everything out right away, and find out really what is the right blend. And that's really back to that accurate AI resolution we're talking about, of really collectively looking at all of the facts and coming up with this new score on this new KPI.
So I just want to make sure kind of I understood that. So yes, maybe we're concerned about like loss in revenue, but is there ever a world where you're thinking to yourself, I'm okay losing 5% of top line revenue because I'm making it up in 20% decrease in operational costs? Like, are you okay with kind of maybe that top line not, up and to the right as much as you want, but also like maybe you're looking at it as like, hey, I'm good solving for this because it's going to substantially lower my costs. So ultimately, your operating margins improve even though your top line growth has slowed. Is that a
There could
world?
be. Yeah, there could
Yeah.
be, Greg. And you have to consider in that scenario other macro factors that play into this. So let's take, for example, the economy that we have, right? I mean, it's no surprise and shock to everyone that there's a lot of inflation happening. There are a lot of organizations that are announcing downturns and layoffs and things like that. In that particular case, yes, maybe you're willing to take and say, hey, AI is able to save me X millions of dollars at the cost of not getting X hundreds of thousands in, upsell or cross sell. You might be willing to do that right now and look at that in a short term macro kind of environment. So there's certainly a case to look at that, depending upon the factors.
Okay. So let's kind of transition a little bit into implementation. So we talked a little bit about pilots. Um, One of the things that I think, if you think about company culture, you think about agent attrition. you never want to like do anything to like hurt that. And so the moment agents kind of get a whiff that hey, maybe some of their job is being taken away by AI, right? You immediately get some pushback. We've seen it in our customer base. So how do you go about like implementing something that ultimately is going to take away a human's job? How do you do that successfully?
Yeah, well, I think a couple things. And organizations really always need to do a better job at change management, explaining it, and having good communication. Um, People are complex, yes, but people are simple as well. And in many cases, people just want to be told the truth of what is happening and what is the communication plan, what is the long term, strategy. So there's a communication aspect that goes into this, right? I think that everybody understands, or most reasonable people understand, that businesses do have to be profitable to survive for the greater good of everybody. That may mean some cases more jobs, that may mean less jobs. On the flip side of all this, AI really may take some of the less complex jobs that are out there and be able to support those. It is going to create an opportunity for more intellectual jobs, more opportunities where the employee base that is there may not necessarily get impacted in a negative way. It may be impacted in a positive way, that it could, upskill or uptrain the employees to have better skills. And one of the things we kind of always think about with AI is that it shouldn't always be looked at from the CFO's office. Certainly, there's a cost advantage to AI, there's no question. But if you exclusively look at, or the culture of the organization says, let's look at this from the CFO's office, then you could run down a path that, yes, it really is negatively affects people because you're not looking at the holistic picture. And there's something for us to think about, socially, when we think about this, that people are real. People have families. People need to support those families. I'm no different than anybody else. So we do need to think about the social aspect of all of this, and how we deploy it.
Yeah, well, I think that even goes beyond just the contact center in general. I read a book, Homo Deus, I think it's pronounced. It talks about like the evolution of humanity and um, how software AI will eventually start to replace a lot of people's jobs. And like, what's the social responsibility of companies to actually, take care of those people? Is there a tax imposed, like a living wage that you have to have? I mean, that's a whole other world that we can go down. But it's an interesting topic to think about when you think about all software replacing a large chunk of folks. So let's kind of change management. We get through change management. We run a pilot. Now we're rolling things out in mass. Right? How do you measure the effectiveness of all of this effort? You've gone through decision making process. You've gone through selecting a vendor. You've gone through change management of employees. How are you justifying all of that 12 months later?
Well, I think you have to have I think, a certain acumen that matches data scientist, as well as more of the compassionate side of supporting people, and looking at that as a complete picture to say, okay, once we take into account these pilots, we see the results, and this is not just a let's do this over a 2 week time frame and see what happens from here. This is more of a extenuated, time frame from 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year, to look at this data and to say, what really makes the best most sense here. And it is some, data science based results that come from that, matched with, some human emotional consideration that goes into what does the workforce look like in the future. So I think that you have to really take a good, equal blend of both sides of that, tactical as well as the people side, to come up with the real answer that tells you the future of what to go with.
That's fair. Mhm. So let's take just like a baseline metric, like maybe average handle time or agent denoted first call resolution or um, callbacks. Like, would you ever try to measure, a standard metric to compare? Would you ever take like a standard metric pre-implementation of AI and compare it against, 24 months later, here's how this is kind of impacted this metric, or are they ultimately two different things.
Yes, you would, except for it's only a piece of the pie that you need to look at. So it's when we talk about apples to oranges comparisons, right? If you take a pre AHT without AI, and then you look at an AHT with AI after some time frame, just that alone, almost probably every case is going to tell you the AI is better. It's not just that apples to apples easy comparison, though. You have to look at, and that's where we're talking about the accurate AI resolution. Really, what are all of those other pieces being impacted to give you the true picture of what has happened with the deployment of an AI solution, and how does it then impact your customer retention? Here's the thing: if you think about this, if your customers totally rebel against this and don't like it, well, you probably can resolve AHT 100%, can't you? Because you won't have anybody to be supporting. So you
Valid
do
point.
need to think about, what do the customers think about this? What is the feedback of the customers from this? Are they happy about it? Are they not happy about it? Your customers are people too. They could very well realize that, hey, I'm getting great support here with this AI tool and I was resolved quickly, but I don't know about this company any longer because what did they do with that job? Right. So it's not just looking at AHT as it was. Okay, it was 10 minutes. Now it's 1 minute. Certainly, that's going to show you're going to save money and efficiency. But at the cost of, did that customer continue to be a retained customer? Did they do word of mouth to other people? No matter what you do and what you pay for marketing, word of mouth marketing still is always going to be better. It's just the
Oh
way
yeah.
that it is. How much are they spending in the future? How much are they not spending in the future? And that's where our suggestion really is. The industry really needs to look at this new KPI of saying accurate AI resolution. It's a much bigger thing as we're deploying this. So we're not just, looking at a simple transaction of it saved me money.
Yeah, I mean that's it's so true, right? Because they might be getting good service, but they don't want to call in and buy more products or talk about other products because they're worried, about talking to software, AI. I think that's a valid point that I don't think I've ever thought of, right? Like you may keep that customer, but you're not going to grow them anymore. Now they realize that hey, this company just laid off 4,000 people, so I don't really care about them anymore. I'll go find somebody else to fill this other part of my need. Um, it's an interesting perspective that I don't think a lot of people think about. There's That's why you can't just focus on one metric. To your point, John, like you have to consider the whole thing because if you're just hyper focused in on that one metric, like it's really easy to kind of, I guess, not see the forest through the trees. Um,
Yeah.
and 12 months later, you wake up and you're like, holy shit, we haven't done anything with our customer base in terms of growing them. Why? Oh, well, that's because we got rid of everybody on the front lines who was selling our stuff to them.
But we saved a whole bunch of money on the front side.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, John, this has been awesome. Really tactical advice. I appreciate it. Um, any final kind of advice for anybody who's thinking about deploying some type of AI, whether it be chat, voice, like what last piece of advice for all of our listeners?
Well, I think you look at reputable companies that have experience doing this to help you on this journey, and you have to do some research and some background to look at that. Organizations like yours, you have very reputable products that have been deployed, and you have a very robust customer base with a lot of references. Look at organizations like that as you're going down your journey. From our perspective, as APX CX, as a independent consulting organization, our recommendation is, don't just specifically go and buy a solution from any technology AI provider as well. Look at it from an independent, holistic perspective, right? Hire somebody, whether it's us or another professional consulting organization, that has the background, has the knowledge, has the know-how, that goes out in an independent way and says, okay, here's what your business challenges are, here's what your problems are, here's where you're looking for the future, here's where you want to take care of your customers now, your employees now. Oh, by the way, these 7 organizations that are in the AI space, they match you in these different kind of ways. Now let's move to the next stage of how do you, narrow that 7 down to what is best for your company. And so,
Yeah,
we think the best way to approach it really is to go with an independent organization to help on that strategy.
I love it. I love it. Well, John, if anybody wants to get in touch with you, kind of learn more about what you guys do, how you guys help, what's the best way to go about getting in touch with you, John?
Yeah, pretty simple. Jon.Ellsworth at ApexCX.com. On LinkedIn, Jonathan Ellsworth. And yeah, we'd love to help anyone in their journey.
Cool. Well, thank you again for joining today. This has been awesome. I appreciate the advice, and I'm sure our listeners are going to take a lot from this. So thank you for your time, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Hey, Greg, appreciate the opportunity. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.